Hello guys and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be interviewing Marcus House. Question is, how did you get into KSP?
It was just my sort of game really right off the start. I followed that right from the early development phase, and after a while I started playing a little bit of that when the opportunity arose to stream, well, not stream, but publish on YouTube, and that's kind of where I first started this thing. It was basically almost by accident too, because we had a couple of clients at my other place of business. I was working as a programmer for various projects and things, and they wanted to put some things on YouTube, so I just thought, I'll put a little bit of this footage on there just so I understand how it works. And I didn't even really mean to make it public, and it turned into this thing where people were watching, so I kept on uploading. So yeah, it was almost by accident.
Question: what was or is your favorite thing that you've built in KSP, do you think?
That's interesting. One of my favorite memories from that period of the channel was doing a collaboration with like the whole big team of people that were publishing and being quite successful on YouTube in this space. So, we had Matt Lown and Scott Manley and all these others that had joined this thing. Yeah, that was really fun.
I know. I also watch both of them, so.
Yeah. Collaboration Station, if you ever search it, you'll see that there's a whole string of connected episodes where each one of us did a certain module of this project, and I think Matt and myself were the first two in the series. That was fun. That was fun.
So I just have a quick question, another one. So like, are you planning to play KSP or like Simple Rockets 2, which has changed its name to Juno New Origins, which is actually going to have an update pretty soon, I think. Are you planning on playing any of those again or no?
I don't actually have an active install of Kerbal Space Program at the moment. One that I've been watching quite closely is this new Kitten Space Agency, because it's being developed from the ground up with a new engine. I'm quite excited about that, and I really hope it continues, because the physics and a lot of the stuff that they're coding in at the ground level, by the way, they're not using Unity or anything like this. It actually means that a lot of the limitations with Kerbal Space Program don't exist in this. So, there was things with, axial tilts that couldn't be done quite right with Kerbal Space Program. And that makes the game a little bit more challenging and fun. And, they can configure it so that you've got easy mode and hard mode, all this sort of stuff. But that means that you need to really think about inclinations and time of launch before you get to the moon and things, because, depending on how the Earth is spinning, what sort of tilt it's spinning on, then you've got to pick the correct launch windows and things like this. I find that really fascinating. But another one that I was quite interested in following, and I have played quite a bit of as they've been developing it, is it's just called the name's escaping me all of a sudden. Rocket Science. It's just called Rocket Science, I think.
I really want to get that, but I don't have a Windows. I mean, my friend sent me like a Windows like USB, but I might buy that. I'm not sure though.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about PC related stuff, I think you're on a Mac, aren't you? But I think the good thing about a PC related thing is you can sort of pick up a fairly standard sort of netbook or something, and you can still play some of these games that are kind of in development, and they don't take a huge amount of power. Rocket Science on Steam, that is what it's called. It's again built with an engine that is more advanced in a lot of ways than what KSP was sort of restricted to. So I'm sort of looking into the future and looking at those, because Kerbal Space Program 2 was just a big debacle and disaster from their
I tried to download that, but it's for Windows only, obviously. So
and it's also just a complete mess. Like it just doesn't do anything that it really Kerbal Space Program 1 is by far a much better game, and it's very polished, and there's lots of mods for it, which are great.
Especially because of the mods, it actually makes it a little bit better than KSP 2, I must say. A lot of people have said.
I think so. Yeah. There were some slight graphical niceties with KSP2, but other than that, the game just wasn't polished in any way at all. So I'm actually not even sure why it's allowed to be on Steam when it's an unfinished game that's never going to be finished. I think it's bad that it's
I know,
still for
but that's
sale,
also
honestly.
KSP then too.
Okay, Kerbal Space Program was released and it was up to its 1.0 and it had achieved all the milestones that it was supposed to. So even though it's not actively maintained, it is a complete game. Whereas Kerbal Space Program isn't even KSP 2 isn't even close to a complete game. So yeah, it's strange.
Yes. So
So can I ask you a question?
all right, hold on.
When you first ended up on the CNN clip, what did you think? What was your reaction when you first found out that you're all over the news?
I don't even know. I was just like, okay. How am I gonna earn money from the
how am I gonna monetize this thing? Yeah,
Yes.
it's been so funny. Like it was one of the first clips after Artemis had launched, and it sort of popped up on all the social feeds. I'm like, oh man, we've got to include this little clip in the next video that we do of this launch
Yes.
coverage, and it was just so funny. And I guess I'd just like to say thanks for unintentionally being excited about this, because I find it's hard to engage a young audience with space stuff at the moment, and it feels like people playing Kerbal, and that's what's happened after Artemis 2. People playing Kerbal have accelerated again. It sort of dropped right off, and now there's active players all over, and young people that are really excited about this. And you appearing, with that clip, and it's really funny. It gets a lot of media attention.
Better.
Yeah, it's great because it's been a long time since we've seen real, human progress heading out to the moon, and it is exciting. And I couldn't have put it better myself in front of the world. It's like, why is anyone excited about this? Like, what? What do you mean? Why is anyone excited about this? It's just the most inspiring story out there, and we need good news. We need good news, especially now.
I personally actually agree with that. I'm not gonna lie. Have you ever? Are you trying? Do you want to go and try to see the second Gilmore Eris 1 launch?
Yeah, well, it's sort of interesting with the first one that they tried. The media access was really quite closed off as far as I was ever able to tell. So they weren't really they weren't even publicly streaming it themselves. So, they weren't really interested in the media coverage and being this far away from the main rocket launch industry. It just seemed to be a little blip in coverage even in America. But yeah, I'm interested in what they're doing. Obviously, it's quite exciting. I wouldn't mind going up there for their next one, but at the same time, there's not a great deal known about the rocket and its propellants and things. So they're kind of closed off a little from a lot of the information that we like to nerd out about. What's the thrust to weight ratio? What's the fuel mixture? What's this? What's that? We don't know any of that. We know that there's engines on there and that's a hybrid fuel, and that's really about all we know. So yeah, there's limited access.
Mm-hmm. There's one person streaming it on YouTube. And he had a crappy camera and everything. And so there was all of there's a very famous YouTuber live streaming crediting him and then all the people from NASA space flight and all the viewers from NASA space flight, they just suddenly appeared on that stream, and there's 1.2 thousand views, and then he gained 500 subscribers in that one night. So it's so funny. Just this random guy with 4,000 just screaming.
Yeah. And everybody whinging, the camera's not working. Probably say, this guy isn't really, fully set up for this thing. It costs a little to kind of get set up with the right gear and equipment and being able to control it and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that was kind of funny. But yeah, again, there was, to my knowledge, there was no media access, or spots kind of worked out with Gilmore, and there was no direct feed with their stream. So we didn't know when it was going to launch exactly. We knew when it was roughly scheduled that it may, and it was only observation that let us sort of see what was going on. But I'm hoping that they really open that up next time so that there's much better views lots of cameras streaming it from different angles, and even from a distance, it's something. But yeah, I mean, I can't remember the guy's name now that was doing it, but it was from quite a distance away. So even if
like
at that point you can't see much.
It just it's like we were just sitting there at like 10 o'clock, and then it just we were just waiting. It was last summer. We were just when's it gonna launch? And then it and it just suddenly, randomly, we just saw it go up,
go up and down,
come back down, and then explode.
Yeah.
And then everybody in chat, in the chat was going because what was on the payload? It was some sort of thingy that's.
Yeah, look, it was just a test. I think it was just a mass simulator from memory.
I know, but there was
some Vegemite on it or something.
Like they were saying that food or whatever was in there. They were saying that survived because they saw the payload fall down and on the ground and burn.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah, the old Aussie Vegemite was the payload, I think, for the one that was publicized anyway, but they presumably had some other just mass on there that would have simulated something useful for them. But it was interesting. I don't know when they're going to try again. Last I heard, they were trying to aim for maybe the end of this year, but given that we still haven't heard much about what's going on, I don't know. It feels like it's going to be next year sometime. So yeah, we'll see.
I just have a quick question. The recent Starship flight out of 10 with 0 being a catastrophic failure, it exploded in flight and destroyed both the ship and the booster, and 10 being flight 10 or 11, all the milestones were fulfilled successfully, and yeah.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think if 1 is the best case and 10's the worst, I think it's definitely up there at about a 7. They achieved almost everything that they wanted to with the upper stage Starship, and that was even with a engine failure fairly early on in the ascent. So they still did everything else that they wanted to do, with the exception of that and the engine relight. And the only reason I would say that they probably will not go orbital for Flight 13 is because they have got no data on that engine relight yet, which is what they really need to make sure that they can accurately deorbit. But Flight 14, I think, is certainly possible. There's really fairly little risk in going orbital because as long as you can deorbit it successfully, that's all you need. For a Starship catch at the tower, that's a different story. That probably requires a little more time, maybe Flight 15 at this point, but it's certainly possible.
It's at it's at 92%. That's fine. So that's probably. What is your message for KSP beginners, do you think, or anybody that's just starting on KSP and just downloaded the game and just booted it up and wants some tutorials and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing, I suppose, is that you want to not be daunted by the fact that you don't know anything. It's a game where the idea is that you start off blowing everything up and not understanding anything about rockets. You don't understand about thruster weights and what that means, because it's not a game where you jump in and you can just go through the steps and achieve everything. That's not the sort of game it is. The game is that you make mistakes everywhere and you learn by failure. And if you don't go into it knowing that you are probably going to be hopeless and it's going to take, weeks of trying to understand the rocket science behind what this stuff means, that you really start having fun with it. And it was one of the most valuable learning experiences of my life, really, because not only did it start a channel that we then ended up, having a business around, it was something where I legitimately learned so much about space travel that I wouldn't have had any other real easy ability to understand at the same time as having fun. You're learning without knowing that you're learning. It's like, how do I don't understand how I intersect with the moon. You've got to do this burn on the opposite side of the planet and direct yourself away from the moon, which seems totally counterintuitive until you understand that, no, by going faster here means you're going slower at the ascending ascending points in your orbit and all this kind of thing, your apogees. And it's very unintuitive until you get used to it. And then all of a sudden, it's just amazing that you know this stuff. And there's people that run channels that don't understand some of the great orbital mechanics. And to me, that's the fun stuff. Scott Manley does it great. He's really extremely knowledgeable in all this sort of stuff. And I always just love to understand the different maneuvers they need to do to get to these certain orbits. And I just find it fascinating.
So, yes, I understand all that, yet I still am terrible. It's because of computer. I'm like a mobile person. So when I get like on computer, it's just like, how do I turn? How do I ignite? Hello? How do I make these darn maneuvers?
Yeah. It takes a bit of getting used to. One of the great things that I think people maybe gloss over at the start of that game is you've got, and I think maybe you have to unlock them if you're doing career mode, is the maneuver nodes, so that you can actually click on the little maneuver buttons and it will automatically point your vehicle retrograde or prograde or normal or anti-normal or radial in, radial out. So it'll actually point you in these directions. And usually most of your maneuvers are trying to focus on a burn in those exact directions. So, a prograde maneuver is always going to stretch your orbit out, and a retrograde maneuver is always going to restrict your orbit back. And, you do those maneuvers at either side of your orbit, depending on what you want to do. And, your normal and anti-normals will usually do an angle adjustment that'll bring you in at a slightly different angle when you get to the location. All these sorts of things are quite interesting. But you kind of get used to knowing those 6 directions quite well. Like a radial in, that'll actually bring your, it'll just adjust the direction that your orbit is sort of going, and a radial out is going to be the opposite. But those are helpful if you're wanting to more automate some of the maneuvers you're doing, because you don't have to manually control the vehicle. You can just click that button, it'll just face it retrograde all the time. It's only really when you have high thrust engines, because when you're trying to land on the moon, you want something low thrust.
Yeah.
And one little trick actually is that if you've got quite a powerful engine, you might go, okay, turn the engine on, and all of a sudden it overshoots. It overshoots by a huge margin what you wanted to do.
Throttle down to like 1% if you somehow like I don't know why like you would have a Rhino engine on there, but if you do, just throttle down to 1% and then you're good.
That's right. Yeah, so picking the right engine that isn't over, super powerful, especially for the moon landings and things like that, or even further out. It's important to have the right engine. But you can also, by the way, you can right click on the engine and you can put a thrust limiter on it so that it's way down. So that way, if its thrust limiter is at 5%, say, your entire throttle band will actually be for that 5%. So you can really do fun stuff with that, but you got to do it to every engine. And I can't quite recall, but some of those things are fun, because when you're trying to land on the moon, you really want precise control. You don't want to have real big bursts of acceleration, because you're just going to fly off and end up on different angles. You want it to just be really nice and casual as you're touching down.
Mm-hmm. When I tried to land on Minmus, it was like perfect first. Like I came down like on a hill, and so I started sliding, and then I lifted off again, and then I tried to land like on a flat surface, but then I burned a bit too long, and so I went flying up again, and then I burned like too late, and then I bounced up again, and then I finally just and then I went I kept bouncing, and then I ended up on another hill, and so I had to go up again, and then I tried to land again, and then when I tried to land, it was not turning. I was like this way. I was like this way, when I was supposed to be this way. And then the retro, and then I tried to point retrograde, and then it went and crash
Yeah,
straight into the
flips over.
ground.
Yeah, the most useful thing to do when you're trying to land is you switch your nav ball to surface mode, because you're trying to cancel out any horizontal velocity that you've got, and surface mode will give you a relative thing to that. So you can
Yeah.
sort of just slowly just burn this way to bring that little your retrograde marker will sit. You want it sitting right in the middle of the nav ball, so you're coming just vertical down. But yeah, min-miss is hard, and likewise any other little body with very low gravity, because you're basically floating and it's just a slight influence, so any overcorrection just sends you shooting off the wrong way, especially if you've got powerful engines.
Yeah, like I was using a Terrier engine, so pretty small. I have just two more questions.
Sure.
Just a couple more questions. So what or who was your favorite collab?
Yeah, the one I said before was definitely the most fun, because we had the whole Kerbal Space Program channels, all lined up, and we're working together with this collaboration station. I don't know if I can send you a link to collaboration station. Let me see if I can Google it. KSP. Does that actually bring it up? Yeah. If you just Google KSP collaboration station, that's all of us right there. There's a playlist at the top.
Yeah,
and Matt Lown hosts the playlist, and we're all there linked up together. It was really fun.
I've been watching Matt Lown for years. Like, and I've been watching
Matt's
Scott Manley for a couple months. I want to get in touch with them at some point, but
no, Matt's an awesome dude. I've been chatting to him for years. Although we sort of split off a little bit. My channel, split off, and we stopped making Kerbal Space Program content and went all in on space coverage. So really, we don't
except Matt
have
Lown,
a lot
at
of
least.
reason.
Except Matt Lown,
still
because
does it, yeah.
like he did the opposite. He stopped doing like space coverage and then started doing KSP instead. So
yeah. Well, KSP had a really great return after Artemis 2, so it's a great time to be back into it, because there's a lot of people watching again. But equally, I hope that we'll have a lot more successes. The version 1s start getting released for Kitten Space Agency and also Rocket Science. They're the two that I think are quite interesting. Whether they will ever have this great following that KSP had, I don't know, because there was just the unique little Kerbals that made it this fun little game that anybody could play and have fun with, whereas the others are a little bit more advanced, maybe in terms of the knowledge base that you need, and that's the balance that they've got to engineer into the game. They need to make it really fun, really simple to get started, but also complex in all the ways that we want it to be, axial tilts and all these kind of things that make it really more challenging than KSP was. But maybe there's a lot more assistance modes that help you do things versus but I don't know, if you put in too many assistance modes, people get used to using that, and then they don't understand how to do it manually, and that takes away from the game too. So it's a hard balance. It really is.
They need to make like an easy mode, that's like the normal system. That's like the size. That's like the size of like the Kerbal system, or like a bit smaller maybe. And then they need to make,
and then the full scale.
And then they need to make like a pro/content creator version for KSA that like is like the hardest and like meant for like good content. It's beautiful. It's hard to land on. It's just the perfect mix of both.
See, the flaw with KSP really. The issue with KSP was that everything was kind of at a 1/10 scale. So the real solar system challenge is much, much greater, but also they had to limit it because the only way to make these missions possible when you've got everything at 10th scale is to make your fuel run out really fast. So that's actually not quite the same in the real world. When you're doing orbital missions, a little bit of propellant gets you quite a long way compared to what it does in KSP. But otherwise in KSP you would have had almost infinite fuel to get everywhere, and it wouldn't have been as fun. So they had to kind of limit how much effect fuel had and propellant had. So there's differences in that. So it sort of gets you a little bit out of the mindset of what a real mission takes in real life. Um,
Yeah,